I mean, I think don't be too obsessed on it. I mean, clearly it's going to dramatically change society over time. It's going to get better. It's going to... I mean, sometimes business work well in the way they are right now. I mean, the most important, what I have noticed is a lot of organizations lack some kind of research and development mindset. No matter how big you are, which is you constantly try it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's important to constantly experiment somehow.
Okay, so we are back with another episode of Let's Talk See Business, and we have once again Wei Yuan with me. You wanna, for our audience that somehow don't know you yet because Trisha is on leave, you wanna just introduce yourself? Quick one.
Sure. So very quickly, my name is Wei Yuan. I've been in startups my entire career. Started my business in second year of uni and somehow ran that for 8 years straight. So right after graduation, just did it for 5 years. Tough times. I joined a tech startup as a regional sales manager in 2021. I ran there for about a year and a half, picked up some Salesforce skills as well. And then Jan last year, I joined Glints, also as a regional sales manager. And here I am today.
And today we have a very special guest, Laurent, on set, right? And we're going to talk a little bit more about generative AI and how to really use some of these tools that are latest out there. But before we begin, would you like to introduce yourself? What do you do and all that jazz?
In Singapore for 16 years. Already engineer by background, software engineer, and now part of creative team in Publicis Group. So Publicis Group is a very large advertising, marketing, holding company with 120,000 employees.
It's probably the biggest now.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think in stock it varies in between. I mean, the competition is Publicis Group versus WPP. WPP being Ogilvy and these companies. And so, yes, I'm part of Publicis Group. I work at Publicis Group level, meaning that I work with every single agency from Publicis Group as an engineer, marrying creativity and technology for all the teams. So I work with Sapient, for example, for transformation, product design. But I also work with BBH or Saatchi or more classic agencies, creative agency around advertising campaign and helping them to import technology into that, use technology for creativity to power their creativity.
Nice.
And I have been using GenAI before the AI, meaning because as an engineer, I used to experiment on the side. So I always mix both sides. So I'm a creative technologist. That's the title. Creative technologist means engineer usually with what creates creative output, I would say. And
how has that changed actually? Yeah. How has it changed
in terms of generative AI?
Generative AI.
I mean, generative AI and not AI. Machine learning, not traditional machine learning. At the time, we were using algorithm from NVIDIA or the version 1 or 2 of GPT, for example. It has not changed much. The difference is the quality of what you get. The time it takes to generate something. So I used to train model for weeks to get an image that big. A week, but we were like, if you look from far, it looks like something. But so we have, of course, evolved to the point where now everything is so good.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so interesting journey.
Okay. Yeah. So the main thing, it's really about compute power kind of stacking over time.
Yes. I spent thousands on GPUs, NVIDIA, A100, I can tell you exactly.
Nice.
And we used to, for example, put 8 of them together to train a model. I, for example, trained a model on the skyline of Singapore.
Okay.
So I had thousands of images of the Singapore skyline. I think it took 2 days to get to a point where you start being able to generate something which was more like the output of what the machine was dreaming of, I would say, or could remember from these images. So it's very far from where we are today. You go in DALL-E or Midjourney or these tools and you type something. So that's the generation before that. I also... Actually, that was interesting because Midjourney came to market in 2002 and 2022. Sorry, in 2021, actually, the algorithm that powers it was already available, open source, kind of something similar, and we could see people starting to generate with prompt. That was new because before we don't generate with prompt, we were just having data set and outputting things, right? and suddenly we had the ability to type something and get an image. And we were like, oh no, that's not true, because we were going through so much pain to generate image, it didn't feel real. And then yes, Midjourney launched 1 year later.
Nice. So maybe give us a little bit more idea on what Gen AI can solve, in the creative process, and what is just like abstract and impossible at this point in time.
Yeah. So if I look at the traditional creative or marketing or product design, I mean, it can be a different type of process. We go from planning for it, right? So we have a brief, we have an idea of, the client may have an objective, so we need to answer that. So first we may start with data, for example. So we may have data that we correlate with some thoughts very early on as part of the briefing or post-briefing, and we may use a tool like ChatGPT there to start providing some input. So that will be where we may use it. So that will be more of a planning strategic usage. And then after, when it comes to creativity, when we start putting thoughts together, it could be about a new product, maybe content you put on social platform, that looks like professional broadcast type. You may start envisioning what it looks like, right? And so that's when we start using a generative tool for images, right? We start generating environmental thing, right? That could look like where this product may end up being used, or what the TV commercial style may be, so then we will use the tool that have been approved, right? The Firefly is starting to be used a lot. DALL-E not so much, because the quality is questionable, to be honest, from a production grade quality. It's fun to need to send a postcard to someone in your family. Okay, cool. But if you do something production level, maybe not yet, right?
Yeah.
We still have creative that may, under the hood, like use Midjourney and don't say anything in the deck. But yeah, Runway is starting to be used as well quite a fair bit, because the ability to bring things to life in motion as well, especially for content creation, is something that we do a lot, like Gen 2. And after that, we go into a process where this may end up being created for production the usual way. So we go back to a traditional creative process.
Really? Why?
Because it's not perfect, right? And so if you're looking for perfection, you may need to use traditional retouching tools, right? So depending on the format, it could be Photoshop, or it could be Premiere or After Effects. That kind of software. Or I don't know. It really depends on what we are doing. This process is also starting to be automated. So it means we have pipeline being created by our production/media agencies in-house at Publicis Group, where it's all API driven, you can imagine, and we are plugging all these tools together, and we are able to create millions of assets at scale based on whatever we need to create, right? So if we have to do, for example, an advertising banner, we can have 1,000 background and 1,000 different type of individual, change ethnicity. So all of that is starting to be ramped up. So we have our own tool internally to do that, which often are based on existing platform, right? But we have them internally because we can plug that into our data sources, etc. I'm not too close to that, but I work with this team, and I'm kind of aware of what they are up to. And then we also have tools that are actually very popular with our client, which are called brand checking tool. So it means we may have brand guidelines. So brand guidelines could be the design system, or the way a brand should look like and sound or behave or be read. And we have tools that just check the validity of that.
Okay.
So all the work can be tested, any type of...
It's like an audit, like function.
So it's kind of an audit, so it's super useful. So it's kind of automated QA in a way.
Since you talk about GPT-4, right? Because my team is recently on GPT-4. We just kind of onboarded everything. So we're trying to feed, because you can kind of create, GPT of your own, right? Different ones, and then you feed it accordingly. You upload your brand guide. You're very clear on what you want. You feed it some of the other things that, you prompt a certain style, from there to preset, so that it makes it easier when you feed that particular GPT to give you what you want, right? Like how do I improve that process? Yeah, based on your experience.
Well, I think GPT is custom GPT, right?
Yeah, custom
GPT. Google is doing the same with a custom agent.
Yeah, Gemini. Yeah.
Coming to market. My experience is the data need to be very well organized, most likely. It's my experience with AI at large, beyond before the hype as well, was 90% of the time was spent on the creation of the data set anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Before you used to go into training, now you just go into GPT, and immediately GPT, a custom GPT, may be able to understand your data and behave accordingly. But the data, the quality of the data, the way it's organized matters quite a fair bit.
Of course.
And I've also the constant update, like you were saying, a regular update to that data. For example, I was trying to kind of replace myself, like trying that with custom GPT. And I realized the way, for example, the information I read myself, I go on Twitter or X this day, I will find something interesting, I will keep bookmark it, new technology. I may just be able to collect that and just feed that information into that system, but I will need to constantly do that, right? So but that data, again, needs to be organized a certain way. Okay, I found something interesting. What does it do? What can I help with, etc. So then the GPT would be able to answer any queries based on the way I have organized the data. So there's a lot of work that goes into preparing data set.
For sure.
And actually it's something probably everyone needs to do, or every organization, no matter the size, should just really look at the data they have, because that would be the fuel.
It's true. Yeah. I'm glad you bring it up, because everybody's just talking about the layer on top, right? Yeah. But actually, a clean data set with minimum noise is what is important to get the result that you want, right?
Yeah.
But for smaller teams, like SMEs that want to kind of expand abroad, they have a lot of things that they want to do. This is important. How do you kind of advise them on what is considered a clean data set? Like what is the step by step?
I mean, clean data set means information that is centralized. Everyone use the same thing. There are guidelines on how the data should be labeled, managed. It's a bit like, so I've built product, right? And when we build product, I'm thinking UI, implementation, tech implementation. We have design system, right? But define, that button is that type of button. We have labels. So all of that is very well organized. And you will find the same label across code and design, for example. So it's a bit the same here. In that case, you need everything you do to be kind of done following specific guidelines, right? So it cannot be messy, right? A GPT kind of understand even when things are messy, but then it's not easy to maintain collectively outside of GPT. The people need to maintain that data set. So that's what needs to be done, right? Centralized data for everyone, even for a small organization.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do a startup today, you have so many tools at disposal, but you didn't have before, right? When it comes to organizing your data, I mean, Google storage. I mean, the Google Files, right? Google Drive. We're getting there. I mean, an Excel spreadsheet can actually be accessed through API, etc. We have done that in the past, and use that as a real-time database, etc. So this is enough to get started, right? And just put your data there. It's collectively accessible, and
maybe at this point, there's a gap for me in this, right? Because like between what Reggie is saying and what you are saying, so we're just saying companies that want to move into Southeast Asia, trying to expand, they want to use all these different AI tools, and then you're talking about maintaining a data set. Like for me, I must profess, I'm not deep into this space at all, right? And I'm trying to think about there is no custodian of data sets for building a trained GPT for my team.
Yeah,
I don't know. Do you have that? Somebody?
No. So on my team, I had that problem. So we were on Airtable, we're on Notion, we're on multiple platforms.
Yeah.
Because as the team grows, I mean, as with all companies, right, as you grow, you change hands.
Yeah.
The leader changes. Then every leader has something that they like a little bit more.
Yeah.
So the data is everywhere, right? And it's stored everywhere. So we essentially have to get somebody to say that you will decide the nomenclature of what is what, right? So this think of it like an Excel spreadsheet, right?
Yeah.
This is named as what, and then go and check across all the other softwares that we use, make sure everything is standardized, right? So it's like a librarian's job.
Okay, so you do have to have somebody kind of own that
Yes.
take that and feed it consistently
Yes.
In large organization, you have chief data officer. And, I mean, it's not an IT job. It's not specifically an engineering job. It could be a data scientist job, but not exactly, right, as well.
Yeah.
It's they have other things to do, right? They don't have to organize the entire... I imagine that's not their primary focus. So you need a data direction the same way you may... I mean, if you think of big organization, they have CMO, chief marketing officer, they have chief experience officer as well, because it's so important. And you can imagine them having... Most of the time they already have, but you need chief data or data lead, or depending on the level, right?
And it goes quite far, like once you set up the data set, and then you decide that, okay, A, B, C, D, E is what I seek, what I want, right? And then you got to standardize that A, B, C, D, E things that you're looking for in some of your landing pages, right? You got to standardize all these other things that you're going for, so that the collection of data becomes, easier, and it fits into that structure, right? So then with that structure, then you can, plug it into whatever, generative AI that you seek for, and then you train the AI to tell you, okay, this is what I want.
Got it.
So I think it's I mean, we're still figuring out, but I think that's a general idea there.
And you have to remember, it can come in different format, right? It's not always text. It can be images, it can be sound. It can be so many things you have to...
But honestly, that part kind of blows my mind. Like, how do I cannot really imagine right now myself, right? Feeding images and sound into a system and then it producing coherent use cases for me. Like, that's my gap, right? I think that might be the gap for like a lot of founders or business owners or managers. Like, how do I make use of that?
But actually, that's where prompting matters. So if you have a data set, you want to get to a specific answer as a business, you just need to know what to say, right? What to ask for. It's very, very important. But even when you ask things properly, you may still end up having to iterate. For example, I still code quite a fair bit, and I will ask the system ChatGPT to give me code, right? It's quite a thing these days. And often it doesn't work out of the box anyway. So you need to keep having that conversation, right? So there's nothing wrong about that. But I mean, does it help? Sometimes it doesn't help. AI is not the answer to everything.
For sure.
It's not a miracle in software. But it helps you to go do things faster in some case, or do things you didn't think you could do.
Just on that ground, right, do you have some specific tools that I think for our listeners they should explore, on this iterative process of...
Well, I'm not sure what is...
Because you have a 20,000 team that can custom everything.
I mean, I don't know everything myself, but there are some interesting... So programming, which is quite a critical thing in the implementation of AI somehow, when it's time to implementing it, no matter if you have a small organization, big organization, it takes time and effort. And I still think you need to get people who understand this system, the complexity of the system, to bring it to life in your organization, beyond just using ChatGPT for yourself, right? I'm talking about scaling that. So there are a few ways to kind of automate or create process workflow for your team specifically. They are not-based programming tools, so you can imagine it's like having boxes and arrows, right? That say, okay, once you do that step, you do that step. So instead of coding, you visually coding, and I think one of them is FlowWise. I think maybe you will find nothing. I think that's the name, where you can actually, if I'm not wrong, control how large language model may behave and what they should do depending on the information,
right?
But results from whatever command you provide to them. So but you will work directly with the API of the system, right? Instead of interacting, let's say, through ChatGPT UI, you go straight into the GPT-4o API. But then you create your own software. You create your custom tool. Airtable can do that, right?
Airtable.
Yeah, Airtable.
To do that directly into, or even in spreadsheet in Google, you can do that, right? You can create your custom plugin, and it's not that uncommon.
Nice. Okay. Given the context that a lot of smaller companies, they have limited budget and they don't have like chief this, chief that, and then have a big engineering team. They got to use what is in the market, right? And they want to get results quick, right? On some level. I mean, that's what every company wants, you know? So from that as the ground, you know, what are some of the tools out there that you think can generate an impact in the shortest period of time?
Well, I mean, I don't know what kind of impact you're trying to achieve, but I'm going back to what we're doing. I used to run startup, by the way, so I've been in this space. As a business today, if you want to accelerate everything you do, I think ChatGPT is probably the most universal tool there is, right? Canva could be a competitor to that, right? Could be in the conversation. So there are tools to...
Yeah.
I think these tools don't cost too much.
Yeah. It's great.
Because
really.
GPT-4o, I may be wrong, is now available for free, or is it GPT-4? I can't remember.
No, you got to pay, I think, $20.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's not
insane.
it's not much, right?
Yeah.
And from a... Yeah, go.
But Sam Altman's vision is to make it available for free.
Yeah, great. You know, but I think, and that being said, right, for my team, because we run a media house, right, and then this whole thing is about creating content. Right? So it's as simple as just throwing a PDF file, because we get tons of media release every day, right? And just throw the PDF file into GPT and then give me something interesting, right? And then you just set some prompts on like these are the things that we care about. You know, at TFC we care about this.
Yeah.
You do it in a PDF file, you throw it in. So you train that custom GPT, and then it will just generate, you know, a whole bunch of things like right in point form, and then there'll be like 10 points from this PDF. And then after that, you just throw it into Canva and use a custom template that we always do. Okay, create a post with 5-page.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Now Gemini will be in the equation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, is it ChatGPT or do I go with
Gemini?
Google solution, right? Obviously.
Yeah. Interesting.
Or Claude, actually. Anthropic's product's very good, but I think it's a bit more advanced. Cool. In its usage. But you can, so ChatGPT, again, can create text, can generate images, can analyze data, can just do everything, right?
Yeah.
And like you say, can create custom agent.
Yeah.
So it means you may create custom agent for your department, let's say marketing, etc. You may have, you can call them co-pilot of sorts, right? For your
Yeah.
I think the aha moment for me, like what you mentioned earlier, is really like having AI at your core.
Yeah.
Right. You do everything like with the intent. It feeds into the core and it comes out from there. Yeah. I think that's probably like for our listeners the biggest thing. It might be simple, but fundamentally there must be an organizational or political will to start with AI as the core and then go out, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you start a company today, you know, they were saying, I mean, it's being said a lot that the next or some of the next $1 billion venture may end up being someone with ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
Which is true,
Yeah.
right? Or someone with AI. I mean, I don't think you need as many people as before.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's augmenting everything, right?
Nice. Any last questions for you, or any last things you want to share for our audience? If not, we'll open up. I'm sure everybody have very specific questions.
I mean, I think don't be too obsessed on it. I mean, clearly it's going to dramatically change society over time. It's going to get better. It's going to... I mean, sometimes business work well the way they are right now. I mean, the most important, what I have noticed is a lot of organizations lack some kind of research and development mindset. No matter how big you are, which is you constantly try.
Yeah.
Right? So it's important to constantly experiment somehow. A big organization may have a R&D department. A smaller organization may just have this R&D mindset, right? I think it's critical to grow. But that's how you're not going to be disrupted yourself, because we have seen disruptor being disrupted constantly, like PayPal being disrupted by, a startup that came after that.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Awesome.
Let's Talk See Business is brought to you by Glint's Talent Hub. We understand that building a thriving business is immensely challenging. It is especially intense for business leaders like yourself. Hence, we want to journey with you. Glint's Talent Hub is the leading all-in-one solution for all your talent needs. Our mission is to pair you with the right talent anywhere across Southeast Asia that fits the unique needs of your business. From there, we handle all your talent management needs. We're talking talent sourcing, hiring, EOR, PEO, talent development. We have a track record of 2x faster team building and up to 70% cost savings. If you want to expand in Southeast Asia, we are your partners. Connect with us, link in the description below.
welcome back, Laurent, to our podcast. Thank you for joining us again. This is a follow-up session to episode 7 because there were a few questions that our audience wanted to pose, but we were not able to because of time. And to our audience out there, thanks for tuning back in, and hope you guys enjoy this extended session. So yeah, Laurent, I'll just jump right into it. Let me start with the very, very first one. So, given the growing interest in businesses adopting AI and the evolution of technologies like generative AI, which Southeast Asian country, in your view, you think are being the most proactive about this adoption, and why?
Well, so what I'm seeing in Southeast Asia is all countries are adopting it. There is adoption everywhere. Now there is clearly more adoption in Singapore. Obviously, I mean, Singapore is not just a place where you have highly skilled people, right, but can actually tackle that technology because it's obviously a magnet for top engineering talent in Singapore.
Yep.
You also have a lot of HQ, right, from this big corporation. So I see more adoption or more decision made in the space in Singapore, for sure. After that, I don't want to start a fight in between Southeast Asian countries, but I would say it's quite equal, right? It's
Okay.
Malaysia or Indonesia or Thailand may say, or Vietnam may say, oh, we are, or Philippines, we are in front. But what I see, I mean, I don't have data to back this up, but when I look at it from conversation and meeting, it's really, they are all trying, right, in all this market with, for some of them, a bit less regulation than Singapore. Because it's not that Singapore has regulation, right? Singapore has guidelines. So the government has provided guidelines to business of all sizes, right? Small and big. I mean, this is very Singapore, right? And what I see in other market will be slightly less regulated, more or less regulated in comparison to Singapore. And adoption that is sometimes done in a way that will not be done in Singapore.
Maybe to elaborate a bit on that.
So in Singapore, business will be extremely careful about the AI, generative AI model they use. Think of Llama and OpenAI GPT models, or on the other side, stable diffusion and or this solution. For example, some of these solutions are not considered because the data set, it was trained on extra is not clear. But what I have noticed is why in Singapore we may be like debating the use of it because of its impact on copyrights and etc. In other markets, sometimes they may just use it, they may just go forward first in the usage of the solution and kind of say sorry later. I mean, that's what I've done. But this is quite a common pattern, when it comes to not first-tier economy, I would say, because Singapore is first-tier economy. The other markets in the region are not far, but they're not Singapore. And when countries are growing very fast, like Indonesia, for example, sometimes you don't have time to ask question. So you should just adopt. So that's how I see it.
I mean, if you had another lens or slice in a different way, right? In terms of company size as well, do you see any distinctions or differentiations in terms of adoption across the different company sizes, and within that lens, right? Any particular spots in Southeast Asia that you think you see it particularly speedy, or that pops up at you, wow, this part is moving a little faster.
So I don't work so much with SME these days. But what I see talking to tech partner like Meta and others similar to Meta, who are serving not just big corporations but also SME and individuals. Many people are using generative AI in the SME space, not always knowing generative AI is part of the solution, but they are using it. Tools have been provided to them. Canva is the best example, right? They provide tools for everyone to be creating graphics and design and video extremely fast, right? With predefined template, and obviously generative AI is part of that, and they announce the need to that. And so a lot of SME, I will not be able to point in specific countries, but a lot of SME are using this solution because it's economically great and it's fast, right? So it means they may actually adopt generative AI even faster than the big org who are like having a massive impact on society because their products are in supermarket, for example, or they are very heavily regulated, So that means they have to think twice when they use this system. So they have internal committee on adopting them. Their IT team are very strict.
I think it's a nice segue into like the next question, right? Are there any opportunities that you see for companies that are in SMEs, like mature SMEs, or like maybe just from your perspective, try to venture into like South Asia? Are there any opportunities to leverage this like less regulation? Time for like guidelines and policies to catch up in these South Asian regions. Are there opportunities for companies like this to build AI-driven like innovation culture in these markets as opposed to Singapore?
That's a good question. We are seeing Singapore. Being in Singapore, I see how powerful the country is in different aspects, but it's also very expensive market to be, right? Obviously, talent is expensive. No matter if the talent is Singaporean or foreigner, right? It's expensive talent compared to the rest of the region. I see some movement towards Thailand, right, as a headquarter for some of these companies in the region. I mean, that's a little more like large org. In terms of venturing, I see like small startup extra. I see some dynamic in Vietnam. With not just like local talent building things, but also kind of a magnet for others to come and build things there. I mean, the COVID time also started, this remote working. And obviously, why maybe now in being questioned, the reality is that these workers working in different places tend to travel quite a fair bit around Southeast Asia. So no matter where they are from in the world, if you follow their IG, Instagram, you will see they are in Vietnam, or they are in Bangladesh, or they are in Chiang Mai, like they really like to move around. So they take Southeast Asia as a base, but they are not specifically pointing why specific market. Because the reality is that when you expand in any market, or when you go and venture in any market these days, you have this solution as a service to provide all the administrative base to your business, right? So that's why I see. After, another thing is generative AI also means that the type of team or the size of the team you require is different, right? It's smaller. But at the same time, generative AI provide you that capability to just augment yourself with a system that does what people will do usually. So it means even, I mean, it's obviously impacting some disciplines and some skills, some people, but you can use generative AI to go into any market and get things translated, things adapt to the local context, because a ChatGPT, for example, will know everything or most of the thing about that market. So it's also easy to kind of expand anywhere, right? So we have experimented with at our level. So even with big org, we have experimented in doing what we call adaptation work, meaning, adapting the work for a specific market, both the way it looks, the way copy, the text, sound, and localization. And all of that can be largely done at 95%, I would say, with AI these days.
Right. Okay.
So
okay. But I can kind of see it, right? So like, for example, companies looking to expand into the region, those are thinking, approach. You mentioned a few countries, but largely it's a pretty fluid market potentially, talent wise, and you can leverage like the generative AI to do a lot of localization, right? Perhaps, but you just have like someone locally to kind of curate and ensure that this ties in with the reality on the ground, right? But you wouldn't have to have like such a huge team anymore, just to perform a good degree of localization.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, QA is needed, right? In whatever generative AI generates as of today.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, yes, having people who understand both the language and sure to always validate this, but the same way that you may have an engineer validating the code provided by Gen AI, right? So it just means you don't need to start an army of people.
Got it. So in respect to talent, right? So in your company, have you have any attempts in attracting and retaining AI talent in Southeast Asia? And as a part two to this question, is like, what does that talent look like? What would be some of the job roles that you guys look out for?
Well, it's interesting. So internally, yes, everyone that is fluent in AI will be put in front, right, of the conversation and of all conversation, because AI is part of most of the conversation we have internally and with clients. So yes, we continuously identify who is good in this space or who is interested and proactive in this space, no matter what their background is, where they came from. So they may be having a business background or an engineering background, a creative background. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, right now, I cannot talk about retention specifically, but we are making an effort to highlight the fact they exist, right? And they will be in front of clients, they will be speaking at conferences, etc. And then in terms of role, it's difficult. I think our roles are becoming much more abstract in the sense that, or shape, we're shapeshifters type, where we may have a core title, let's say technology director or whatever this is. But then depending on the context, we may want to adapt that, AI expert or computer vision expert, it could be a variety of needs. It's not just about AI. So we are trying to be careful also not to be too obsessed by one thing,
Got it. So in your hiring strategy, when we've got to AI, I think you hire primarily for the job function first, and then you look at the AI skill set / experience as part of like a peripheral add-on.
Yeah, I mean, unless the role is really specifically about training model or deploying model.
Yeah.
AI as a skill is kind of like knowing how to use Word and Excel.
Yeah, it's more like application layer usage.
Yes. Last time we were using Say That, right? You need to be proficient in XYZ. So now we will say you need to be familiar with this solution, right? And I think everywhere. But then I will not be surprised if we start having AI title around training, refining.
I mean, something that we saw quite a lot recently in our own experience is like a very base layer, right? The AI data annotators, like just huge groups of people just annotating, data sets so that you have clean data for training.
Yes, but that will be, it's a bit like the mechanical type of thing, where, or what Facebook used to have in the Philippines with large, not data center, but the large spaces with people just looking at content from Facebook and rating it as should be on platform or not.
It will be.
There is also automation coming to that space in the sense you can largely automate labeling and annotation of things, but to a certain degree, and then you will still need the human to look at it. It's a good point. Tagging, labeling, especially computer vision as well. I mean, or providing code, like for GPT type of engine. I mean, all of these are, providing the data, sorting the data, all of that is a need that exists, especially as organizations, small or big, we need to start figuring out what they have in terms of data in order to be able to work with this model to personalize it. So, but I think I don't think this is a premium job. But Southeast Asia as a market, some of the country in the region could benefit from that, obviously.
Understand. So it could be opportunities for companies. It could be an opportunity for companies who are looking to start building in more playlists and infrastructure into their existing database. They could look at Southeast Asia's opportunity to kind of like, build up a team that does this for them, because it'd be difficult to get, like, for example, someone in Singapore or a large enough team size to do it at the efficient level.
No, in Singapore, you may have the last step of that team, like the one approving or validating whatever the rest is doing, but the rest will probably be maybe in Indonesia, and then maybe Philippines. I'm not sure which one economically will be the best right now.
I mean, our own experience was we built a team of 50 in Vietnam, data annotation specifically for Korean and Japanese. So that was one use case there. But yeah, you're right. Within the wider region, I think there's.
I mean, it's the same with translation, right? In the past, and it used to be sent to some of its market. I mean, the great thing about Southeast Asia, if let's say you're an American company or even a Japanese company, we don't know, European, doesn't matter. You can both have premium talent in SG and slightly cheaper and offshore talent close to Singapore, meaning as a combo for your organization to expand to this region, and it's quite unique. Right?
So there's a window, or as you're saying, that used to exist in Europe, but then the window is closed, right? And so now South Asia has a window as well.
Yes. I mean, there will be a point where all this market rise.
Exactly.
Right. You will be elsewhere. It could be close region. I mean, you have country like Bangladesh.
I think the last question again, and again, this is if you have the visibility right now, right? Beyond Singapore, do you notice any in South Asian countries being like more active in building talent in AI? Be it directly contributing to the LLM design and training, or working on an application there. Like, have you noticed anything?
Oh, that's a good question. No, but there is a lot of engineering talent. I mean, to my knowledge, in Vietnam and Indonesia, for example. Elsewhere in our Southeast Asian country, I have not seen anyone taking a massive lead. I mean, again, that's my impression collaborating with this market.
Yeah.
I have not seen exactly what the internal policy around education and
yes, exactly, yeah,
in this market. Clearly, Vietnam established a lead in engineering in general.
Yeah,
right,
correct.
Which means they may be having that type of talent, but I've not worked with any of them so far, so I cannot say. What I can say is that I've done it with Indonesia, where the talent is very much more distributed in Indonesia because it's such a massive country.
Yeah.
But there is some serious talent. I mean, Indonesia, at the end of the day, has some of the biggest unicorn in the region, right?
Exactly.
Gojek and all of that. And there's quite a fair bit of talent in Jakarta, actually. Which, by the way, is probably sometimes twice the price of the talent outside Jakarta, from my own experience.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
They're doing well within themselves, in Indonesia. Business are actually doing extremely well. And these talents are building some of the most advanced company in the region. So we can imagine there is serious AI talent. You may not have the same type of talent or some type of big unicorn in any other market in the region, even Singapore.
Yeah, for sure.
Vietnam may not be too far from that, but you don't see an equivalent to Gojek at the scale.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks for very deep insight into that, into Indonesia. But I think it's really encouraging, to know from your perspective as well that there's really a world-class talent in Indonesia if you know where to look, and if you have the resources and the channels to get there.
Yes, sorry. You know why I can tell you they are world-class is because I brought them some of his talents, and not exactly the one who were from Gojek because we couldn't touch them. The other talents were very good as well. I put them on project in the past where we had distributed team globally.
Yeah.
So we had people from Europe, we had people from the US, New York or Dublin, and we had people from Brazil. We were in Brazil, Argentina, and then we had people from Indonesia in the mix. And they were making their counterparts look bad. Oh, since they were, I kind of like talent from there because they combine both great quality, but at the same time they're a bit random, which is helpful when you do creativity. Which not all, some people are too robotic. They are not, and that was amazing.
Yeah.
They were comparing extremely well and sometimes much better than the market, to the point that we ended up offshoring a lot to Indonesia out of the US and elsewhere because they were doing well. And there's also this internal and interesting thing that a lot of ops are, 24-hour ops, meaning that when the West sleeps, the East is awake.
Yeah, awake. Yeah.
And so Indonesia could take over, right? Or any other market in the region can take over. That's another opportunity, for organization to go into Southeast Asia.
Yeah. And I think the other upside, right, that, about the region is that everybody's so young. You got energy. You got energy to work long hours.
Yes, too much energy.
Yeah, it's a very, very young.
It's a good
young-
thing, I'm quite I'm quite a nice boss, like, hey guys, go home.
Yeah, it's a problem in Southeast Asia. Sometimes you work too hard. Got it. All right, cool. I think those are all the questions that we had from our audience that they really wanted to ask. Thank you so much, Laurent, for your time once again.